So this is our final Nearpod for this semester. Final new information, and it's not going to be much. It's almost going to be more of a review because we learned a lot of this from one of our readings. So, some new information is that our sense of touch is controlled by our nervous system. So there's two parts to the nervous system. There is the central nervous system, which includes your brain and your brain stem and your spine. And there's also the peripheral nervous system. So peripheral vision is side vision, and that has to do with this. So these are going to be the parts of your senses, or the parts of your touch, that branch out from your spine. So this is really like a really elaborate web of nerves. So the nerve cells are the things that detect different forms of touch, which is really, really complicated. And it's kind of amazing that we get information from here. It travels through a nerve into our spine, into our brain, where it is processed. Sometimes not processed if it's like something really hot or hurting us. It actually doesn't even make it to the brain. It actually stops in the brainstem, and then our brainstem immediately sends information back here to remove our hands. But if it's something like touching a table that's not going to hurt you, it actually takes a little bit of time for our brain to process, like, ooh, rough surface, or ooh, smooth surface, or ooh, warm, cold. And then it sends some information back to our hand depending on what we should be doing. So the nervous system is unreal. It's the reason why I'm able to even do this right now. It's the reason why we can perceive the beautiful world that we're in. And it's just really, really cool. So there's not just one type of sensor that are in our nerves, and we're actually discovering that there might be more than we actually even know of. But there's three major types of sensors, plus another one called proprioception. So the reason why I'm bringing up proprioception is because I broke my ankle back in May, and I lost my proprioception. So just to give you an example of how I lost my proprioception, the first day I went to physical therapy, the physical therapist was, evaluating me, and he said, all right, now stand on one foot. So on my good foot, I'm like this, right? And I'm realizing right now, after being there, that my foot is constantly like adjusting a little bit without me thinking about it. So it's determining the position of my foot relative to balancing my body. When I went with my other foot, I was like this, like I couldn't even do it. And that's because my muscles forgot where the position of my body was. So it forgot, like my right leg didn't understand how my body needed to be positioned in order to stand on one foot. So proprioception is the detection of your body's position in space, and it also helps you balance with the vestibular system. All right, so now, the three major types of senses that we feel with touch is going to be heat and cold, hot and cold, which are actually two different types of nerves. There's pressure, right? And then there is pain. So interestingly enough, have you ever had a situation where you put sunglasses on or your glasses up on your head and you're going through your day, right? And then you're like, oh, where are my glasses? Where are my glasses? And you're like, oh, my glasses are on my head. I didn't even feel them there. So the main point of that is that things like heat or cold or pressure, eventually we can become passive to them. Like our nerves stop sending information that like our hair is sitting on our head because we don't want to be distracted by these things. But something like pain is actually, when we feel pain, it gets worse and worse and worse. So if you pinch yourself, which I don't suggest you do, but if you pinch yourself, you'll notice that at first it's like, ow, but then after a while it's like, ow, ow, and it gets worse and worse and worse as time goes on. So they become desensitized to heat or cold or pressure, and pain becomes more sensitized. So it's even more sensitive as time goes on. Okay, so you're gonna watch a video on itchy at the end of this. What is itchy? So this is pretty much what I was just explaining there. And there are about 10 other senses that we know of. Well, really like 21 senses, but there's 10 interesting ones like time, and like we said, balance already, stuff like that. Even a sense of hunger and a sense of thirst. So these are all senses in a way, not necessarily that you think of them as that, but they really are, because we are sensing that we need to drink water. We are sensing that we are hungry. We are sensing that we need to use the bathroom, stuff like that. Synesthesia we talked about briefly, but synesthesia is the combination of different senses like overlapping. So maybe some people are very sensitive to this with sound. So they'll hear a low-pitched sound and they'll see like a purple image pop up in their vision, and they hear a high-pitched sound and you see a yellow image pop up in their vision. It's very, very odd, very interesting, but it is the overlap of senses. So I can include this video in there as well. And this is the little review that I want you to do. So try out each one of these questions, see if you can answer them, and if you can't, come to Mr. Schweitzer, ask me questions. All right? So that's it. That is the semester. We're going to be doing review next week, and then we'll end up taking the midterm. All right? Don't stress it. Don't stress it. Okay, relax. I wrote the midterm. Relax. Have a good time. See you.